Thank you everyone for joining this call. We're really excited to have Dave. And so by means of introduction, I'd like to introduce David Zick. So he received his bachelor's degree from the University of Michigan Flint and had made a pledge his freshman year to make annual contributions of at least $100. And as his ability to give grew, so did the $100, which is a great story that we got to hear a couple weeks ago. And he's the first living alumnus of Flint to have donated $2 million, and dozens of undergraduate students are able to receive financial scholarships from the endowments that Dave has funded. For decades, Dave and his wife Francine have supported many educational institutions financially and in other capacities. And with decades of philanthropy complementing decades of selling, Dave has a unique perspective on giving, why people give, how to provide opportunities, and we're very excited to hear from him today. And so I'll hand it over to you, Dave.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining. I want to start off by thanking a Central Michigan University student, Alexandra Petix, actually composed the PowerPoint presentation. She's a student there. Max knows her well, and she created the PowerPoint that I'm using today. I gave this talk one other time so far, and I'm interested in continuing to give this talk because it's a way to share some experience and hopefully help other people in their efforts to attract philanthropic support. This was all done by Alex. So a little bit of background about me. We've already talked a little bit. And so I'm not going to get into that very much. I had an insurance agency. We had over 100 employees. I sold that about 5 years ago. And I'm one of 13 children. My parents raised us with the idea of helping others. And even though my parents had very little, they still donated their time and what little money they had to spare to other organizations and support. And it gave me a philanthropic disposition. And I've had that since then. My first thought is if you're going to try to raise money, you need to be philanthropic yourself. You need to give, and not just where you work. If you aren't philanthropic, then you're in the wrong field. When I started selling life insurance, they talked about if you don't believe that life insurance is a good product, then you should not try to sell life insurance. The other thing is people buy commodities based on price. They buy services and support organizations based on personal relationships. And so your personal relationship with you being philanthropic is key to success. I read about 8 levels of giving. And the lowest level of giving is when you are basically embarrassed into giving. You give begrudgingly. You make the recipient feel disgraced or embarrassed by giving. And then there's higher levels. But the highest level of giving is when you give in a manner that helps the individual to become self-reliant in the future, so they no longer need charity. And in my opinion, when you provide education and when you help someone get an education, that is the criteria of giving in a manner that helps an individual become self-reliant. When a donation is made, there are 4 people that benefit from it. The institution that secures the donation, they benefit. The person who solicited the donation, they benefit. They did a good job. The recipient who benefits from the donation, they win. And people don't think about this a lot, but the person who made the donation also wins when they make a donation. There is a reward that comes to the donor. When you help someone, you feel good. So when a person gives money, it helps them feel better. They are actually a winner. And keep that in mind when you're soliciting donations. The highest level is an inspirational fundraiser. And that's an emotional engagement. It's not just here's what you can do. It's to get on the same emotional wavelength as the potential donor is, find out what inspires them and work with them. When you approach a donor or a potential donor, you need to focus on your donor. Don't think about yourself. I will give you an example. When I was selling life insurance, my manager said, always have money in your pocket. Because if you go out to try to sell someone life insurance and you are focused on, I need this sale because I don't have any money, that's going to come through. In the same way, when you are working with a donor, if you are consumed about the fact that, oh my God, I've got this goal to raise $50,000 this month and I've only raised $7,000, I'm going to lose my job. If you go into a meeting with someone with that in mind, it's going to be very difficult for you to be successful. You need to look at what the donor's needs, what their wants, what their aspirations are, and then weigh that and show them how they can meet their needs, their wants, and their aspirations by helping the organization. Now, why do you recognize people? Some people like recognition, and even if they don't like recognition, it can inspire others. So you need to encourage people to allow you to recognize them. The long game. It's important to start as young as you can. If you can get your students to pledge to give you $5 a month right now, $100 a year after they graduate, then those are donations that over years and decades will create your future donors. Development is a long game. It's not a short game. You have to nurture your relationships. The chance of you coming in and have immediate success is very small. It will take decades before you will harvest the full potential of what you do today.
Hi, Dave. Dana Raftis, how are you?
Hi, Dana.
Real quick question as we look to, close out the hour with you. First of all, thank you for doing this for us and our teams. We appreciate it. Anytime we get to interact with donors and get their perspective on things. But additionally, I was wondering from a personal perspective, you've been very philanthropic to higher ed, other organizations, as you told us, et cetera. And there's a lot of choices you can make, but what gift personally makes you the most proud? Maybe it's not the largest, but what as a donor has made you most proud to support?
The most pride I've had is when I've gone to a physics meeting and I've seen students that are being inducted in the National Honor Society for Physics students. And I see those students and I look at students that are probably of similar economic means that I was when I was an undergraduate. And I think, I've had a small part in helping those students attain the success that they've attained. That, to me, that's the most rewarding, is to see the result of the scholarships that I've given, to see those students that in some small way, maybe 20% of the money that they got to go to college, maybe 30%, maybe 10%, but I had an influence on them.
But thank you so much again for this hour of your time. We really appreciate it.
It was my pleasure. Thank you all for your attention.